session. If council, if you all don't mind, and rest of our departments don't mind, we got our new, Beast pressure washer thing in yesterday, and so maintenance is still training on that, so they asked if they could come in and do their budget stuff first, so they can get back to training on that, be right on pressure washer. So we'll call, Kirk and Damon up, and they can go over their stuff.
Bring it in.
Bring it in.
Yeah, bring it in, let us look at it. Write it on down.
Good morning,
Good
Council.
morning.
Our capital request is for 2 service trucks. That's all we have this year.
Yeah, and then staff-wise,
You're good.
We're already budgeted for we have 2 open positions, but it's supposed to already be budgeted for.
all right, any questions to maintenance department?
Without me looking this up, how much are the trucks?
65,000 each.
All right, thank you.
Can I drive the Beast?
Yes. It's fun. It's fun.
I rode with her, I wouldn't recommend it.
Let her drive it on Channing Way where the speed humps are, so make sure she goes slow.
So is one in this calendar year?
Yeah,
or
we got
fiscal
one. We talked about pushing it back depending on the total amount. We got one this year.
Right, one this year and 2 next year?
Yeah.
Yes.
As
Yes.
long as you get your truck.
Hey,
Okay.
I'm, whatever it takes.
All right, any other questions for maintenance? All right.
Thank y'all.
Get back to the
Appreciate it.
beast.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. All right, next, let's start off with city court. Anybody here from city court? No, they were notified. Decided not to come.
Does that mean we don't budget them?
That- That's, up to you all. You got recovery court? Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I know you have in your positions, a couple of new positions. Can you talk about the grant for
Yes.
the mental health court?
Yes, I would love to. So the state reached out to us recently to reopen the mental health court in city court and really legitimize it by providing funding for that and a state certification. So it would look much like our recovery court that we currently have in city court. And I just submitted the budget for that. They will be giving us a budget of $115,000 that we can use to really serve citizens in our city who suffer from a severe persistent mental illness that are also having those symptoms that drive a lot of their charges in city court. So that will hopefully we'll get the budget for that approved and provided to us. I think in September is the start date. And so we are asking to hire another clinical case manager specifically for the mental health court. I'll oversee both courts, and then we'll have a clinical case manager for recovery court, a clinical case manager for the mental health court, and then looking to hire a full-time admin assistant just to help with the day-to-day for both of those programs. So
You know what page this is on? Is that what department it's under?
It's in recovery court. No, we're talking about staffing right now, right? They don't have any capital.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, so just those 2 new positions.
yeah, those new positions are from the grant for mental health court. Any questions for Haley about recovery court or the new mental health court?
Yeah, I want to know, at the end of each fiscal year, do you all provide some type of report regarding the successes that you all have had during the prior year?
Yes, sir, we do. We usually submit a report to the mayor's office and then usually to the state as well. We have a report that the state will generate for us based on the information that we put in the system that they see. They'll send us our outcomes report each year that we get to kind of see our success rates. Yes, sir.
Okay, will you send me or the
Yeah, I'd
councilwoman
love
as
to. I
well?
will
I'd
as
like
soon
to
as
see
we
that.
get it. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you explain a little more about what mental court, what the purpose, and I understand
Mental health court, not mental.
Mental
mental
health.
health court. But then, like,
Yes.
what's the end result of that?
The end result would be the same for the recovery court, just to help individuals who are consistently in and out of city court who are getting charges that are driven by their mental health system, their mental health symptoms and the inability to be able to stay on their medications, and find appropriate housing and to have day-to-day case management. So that's where we would come in and really help oversee that and be involved in their day-to-day life, help them find housing, make sure that they have, we have a new line item that the state has given us for assistance to individuals where we can pay rent for them, we can help with their medications, we can help with some of their medical and dental bills, just a big support to kind of come around them, a lot of intensive supervision and case management, and then treatment as well to make sure they're getting their medications, they're going to their appointments, they're, you know, getting individualized care that they need to make sure that they don't come back to the criminal justice systems for a lot of charges that are due to those symptoms that
Okay,
they're
that makes
experiencing. Yeah,
Did you say these were covered by a grant?
yes, sir.
Okay, how long is that grant for?
So this grant, it's usually year by year, but they've told us that we'll get that grant each year. It starts on July 1, so it should be a recurring grant that we have as long as we're able to do everything that we need to and be certified.
Okay, please.
I have a question.
And the mental health grant, yes, I don't have a copy of that today, it's not.
So, see right over here, right there, mental
So
health
it's all
court.
together.
Yeah, so she's gonna oversee both of them. That's why it's
I have
not-
a question. So is it essentially, is the judge going to be ordering these clients to do the mental health treatment and then you guys follow through with that? And then how often are you, like, is the judge doing review hearings and how often are those?
Yes, and I'm going to a training next week on mental health court specifically, and I'm kind of learning what that looks like specifically. But yes, they will have the same as they do in recovery court, weekly or bi-weekly report backs to the judge to make sure. And we have a treatment team that we will also create and kind of get together for our mental health court like we do with recovery court, that will oversee each participant's case and then give a report to the judge on how they're doing, if they're participating in treatment, if we need to make any behavior modifications to their case, and the judge will see them and then hand that down to them in weekly court.
Okay, thank you.
So will all the parts like finding them a place to live, helping them afford a place to live and their medication, and will that come out of the budget or is that part of the grant?
Part of the grant. All of that will be included within the grant. The only thing the grant doesn't cover would be salaries for the new positions, but everything else will be covered by it.
And the grant ends when?
It starts on September 1st and then we'll go through to June 30th, but I would imagine it will be, yeah, it'll be recurring.
Oh,
It'll be recurring each fiscal year, but we'll have to go through our certification and auditing and things like that. and
after
then-
this grant is over, would you apply to the foundation for some of that funding for dental care, those kinds of
Yeah,
services?
but the grant's recurring, it's a
Oh, it
year to
keeps
year.
going.
Yes, it'll be
Okay.
it will be recurring.
City business.
Yeah, I was thinking of a way to fund it.
Did you say the grant did not cover salaries? What, I mean,
No, sir, they don't.
they do not?
They do not. They don't cover the recovery court salaries and they won't cover the
So
mental
how
health.
much are the salaries?
The salaries for the positions we're asking for are, for the mental health court case manager is 40,000, I think 60 with benefits, and then the admin assistant, I feel like was in the same grade
So-
level as well.
So we're adding roughly 2 people, $250,000?
Yes.
Okay.
No, 120.
120.
Doing some Larry math over there. If I got a yes, I could get twice the money.
And hopefully I'll have more information once we kind of get the budget for the mental health court, and as I'm learning and we're seeing how to kind of start the program, and I can give you a lot more information then, but it is coming and in the works.
Let the record show that Larry did not flinch at 250.
You know what? I'm going to make a note of that, actually.
But he's writing in pencil though.
He erased it.
I have a question.
Sorry, I gotta tell you what it was.
Okay, all right.
We had a situation where this lady calling me, and her son basically been in a hotel for the last 6 months or to a year, but she had conservatorship of the other man, of her son brother, but she couldn't get any help. And I had called Chief, Captain Tisdale, and we was trying our best to see what we could do to get her help, because she had conservatorship, but every time someone would go out, they said they couldn't take him. But she had total conservatorship. Would y'all be able to help in situations like that? Because all she wanted was to get her kids some help. And we was like, okay, you can wait till he died in the hotel room, or he end up hurting someone. But I think they finally got it back in court, and, the judge kind of ordered them, I think, but the judge said the sheriff department said they had stopped doing it, going out, taking them. But it's situations like that where, I mean, people just want, people with mental health issues, just want help and be able to get some type of assistance. Will y'all be able to assist with that type of?
We will, and that is why I'm requesting that the salaries be provided through the city instead of through the grant, because if they are, then this position would also be allowed, to work with people who, maybe there's a phone call from the police department, from a citizen or someone who says they just need some help, and then this case manager that works specifically for this court, if they're paid through the city, would be able to take calls like that and help connect with a lot of the resources that we're gonna build up and already be using for our mental health court specifically. So that is why we requested that salary come from the city to be used, for our other city, people that might need that help.
We beat this to death, but if you elected to, or if we did something, can that grant be used for salaries, or is it prohibited to be used?
It can be.
It can be,
Yes, it
okay.
can be.
All right, any questions? All right, Haley, thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Next, move on to our police department. And you'll find their capital starts on page 4.
Morning.
Good morning.
We want to talk capital first or staffing?
Let's talk staffing first. And we'll go
Staffing?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So we have a few new positions that we're asking to be budgeted for. One is a staff accountant, in-house accountant at the police department. We have a captain now that's a financial director for us. He's planning to retire in a couple of years, and his assistant is retiring next month. And so we're trying to get someone spun up into that job so they can take over that role. So that's what that is. We have an opening for a mechanic for our police vehicles at our garage on our campus. We're also looking to hire a traffic liaison coordinator, someone that can work together with both the police department and city hall and public works about traffic-related issues. But they'll work with us. And then our police cadet program, we just began, and we have one in working with us now, and we'd like to have a couple others that we could hire. These are folks that are 18 to 20 years of age, not old enough to be a police officer, but interested in law enforcement, and we can get them into the pipeline. And we've got a curriculum that's approved by the state through workforce development to get them where they need to be, and then they're already, like I said, in the family and ready to go when they turn 21 to become a police officer. So we'd like to hire a couple more of those.
Chief, weren't we the first in the state to have the curriculum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, first in the state to have the police cadet program through the workforce development. And so we also have some part-time positions in here. We're hiring some retired officers to come back and be report technicians, also to help monitor our cameras. As that technology grows, we're needing maybe 1 or 2 more of those. And so those positions are also in there. I know the question has become up already at the budget committee, the 34 vacancies in the patrol division, and the difference between that and last year's 9. What last year's 9 were the budgeted vacancies. There were actually more vacancies, but there was also no way we could hire that many in a budget in a fiscal year. So we budgeted for those 9 because we knew we were going to lose so many to retirement, and so it created up to 20 vacancies for us through retirements, and that's what's going to happen again this year. We already know in fiscal year 25 we'll have, I think, 8 or 9 that are retiring for mandatory retirement or already notified us about retirement because they've earned it. And so that's 9 positions that we're going to have, plus maybe 13 that we'll budget. And so that'll give us 21, 22 positions, and we average hiring about 20 or so a year. So that's going to be where we're comfortable at.
And so, what we talked about earlier, Chief, and what Chief Benton and Tizon, you and I have talked about, of by budgeting for the 13, absorbing the remainder with that, by not budgeting for that, what we can do to not increase the overall budget, but to compensate our officers. I don't know if you have the information, but.
Right, so the proposed salary increases for officers and benefit changes that we're trying to add for our officers will be encompassed in the difference there, the 21 vacancies that we're not going to budget for. We're going to use that money to increase the salaries and increase the benefits for the officers.
So just to clarify,
Yes.
last year's budget had how many positions here?
Last year's budget had multiple positions, but for patrol entry level, we had 9, I think.
Okay, at the end of the year, how did we stand in hiring versus that budget?
We hired, for this fiscal year that we're currently in, we've got 5 more that we're hiring in May, and that'll be a total of 20 that we'll hire this year.
Okay, in this year's budget that you're asking for on staffing, how does that number relate to that?
Okay, so we're gonna ask to be budgeted for new hires, 13 vacancies, and then we're going to lose through retirement this fiscal year 9, and that'll be a total of 22 we could hire this fiscal year.
And you think you realistically hire about 20?
I think we average around 20, and if we stroke a luck and we can hire 25 or 30, then I'll come knocking on your door, I guess. So, but that's about where we typically are. In this hiring environment, it's very difficult to get.
It helped my memory, this has been a couple weeks since we talked, so right now, our starting salary for officers is 50.
50.
We're going to 50.
52, 8, maybe, 53.
53.
Can't, hold on, I've got it right here.
Yeah, I can't, I thought it was,
I've got it. No, I'm sorry. It would go from 50,169 to 56,201.
Does that implement getting take-home cars too? Because I know we voted on that.
That'll be in the capital budget.
it's just as we get them. How are we on the cars for this year? Have we gotten them all yet?
No, we've gotten 13 of them in. We've already issued out 3 or 4 of those after they get the equipment put on. We've got several of those getting equipment put on now, and then 7 of them are on the manufacturing line right now hopefully to be arriving in the next month. And so we'll start the process of putting equipment on those as well.
That's the same, we ordered approximately 20 cars?
23.
23, yeah.
23 new patrol cars. Now, we've ordered some other vehicles for admin and investigative folks, but the patrol cars that are hitting the fleet, there was 23.
Well, this is kind of jumping over into capital, but, since we've been upgrading the fleet the past few years, what's your evaluation, Chief? Is our vehicles in better shape than they've been?
We're in better shape as far as the vehicles, but however, several of the vehicles that we push down to the younger officers, if you will, are aging out. And so as we're bringing new vehicles in, there are some that we are having to get rid of because they're just maintenance either is too cost prohibitive or they're going to get too dangerous to drive.
So with that, with acquiring new vehicles versus retiring the old vehicles, are we keeping pace? Are we getting ahead? What's your evaluation?
We're a little bit ahead.
Okay,
We're not going to be retiring as many as we're receiving, but we could still use some more.
You still got some Crown Vics rolling around.
Yeah, we still have some Crown Vics rolling around.
I've noticed that one at First Baptist, it never really moves around a lot.
Right, some of those are retired vehicles.
We still have some Crown Vics that are assigned to.
Yeah, we still have some that are operational.
So how do we compare with pay to the outlying counties?
It's outlying counties is very, we don't compare at all to outlying counties because those are different dynamics and different populations and different call volumes. We're very unique in what we compare to. It's hard to find an apple to our apple to
What
compare.
about like Murfreesboro? Is that
Yeah.
really to our Apple?
No, it's a different demographic. different
Yeah, it
call
is,
volume.
that's a town of 160,000 people, and the proximity to Nashville is a little bit different than we are to a major
Yeah,
metropolitan area.
that's one of the challenges that we've had for when we did our pay parities 2-3 years ago, when we had a study done when we changed our pay scale, was that there's really not a city around that compares to us, that is surrounded by a rural area, but is a metropolitan area with a population our size. So it's difficult when you get to try to compare a direct line comparison. Bless you.
Okay,
Yeah, Chief, the litter enforcement officer, how's that going?
It's going well, and in fact, I've got a retired officer who's, he's retiring now. He's gonna come off the books in August, and he's agreed to return and be a second litter officer for us. So the program's going good. He's actually overwhelmed a little bit. He's got a lot of cases that he's working. He's Officer Butler's focusing mostly on illegal dumping and taking those cases through environmental court, and has had a lot of success. Officer Cobb is retiring and wanting to come back, and we're going to use him more in an enforcement role, stopping those trucks that don't have tarps on them and things like that that are littering our roadways.
And when do you expect him to come on?
August.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions on staffing before we jump to capital?
Yes, sir. Your department with, the one that work in the fentanyl cases, Nate Cobb,
Yeah, Sergeant Cobb.
yeah, what do that look like? I mean, 'cause you have them two officers and they doing several jobs.
Yeah, they are. They're on our vice unit, and they're also handling, because we have the drug task force is handling the narcotics side of it, but they're responding to some of those overdose cases. They're overwhelmed a little bit, and they're having to focus on the major cases that they can deal with. I spoke with Sergeant Cobb the other day, and I'm reaching out to the drug task force to see if they can help us out a little bit with those cases, because they are,
Because
you know,
they do
there's
that.
there's a
they
lot
do,
of them. Excuse me.
They got several different other duties that they.
Well,
also do.
that unit also handles everything from gambling to prostitution issues in the city, a whole bunch of things like that. But the overdose cases is part of their role. They work together with the narcotics unit.
And council, we also have, MTAS is, I don't know if we have a timeline on that yet. Been coming
No,
out,
yeah,
the
David Moore with
staffing stuff.
MTAS, he's a police consultant, is gonna be working with us on a staffing study, if you will, to make sure that is our authorized strength the appropriate number? Do we have our officers and investigators in the proper roles, and are they, do they have too much span of control as far as different types of things they're doing, like you're referring to, and do we need to kind of adjust how we're working things? So that's ongoing now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Come on over to capital, and you have any questions for Chief about capital?
I'll say you'll see there's several things that are through the 5-year plan that are somewhat repetitive, but those are the things that we buy every year we have to have. So our ballistic vests for our officers, our portable radios, our body cameras, tasers, those things that have a limited time lifespan, those things have to be replaced every so often. So we try to maintain that. Otherwise, the other things are just things that we have to fulfill a need annually. It may be different than it was the prior year.
And the department's always looking for volunteers when they get new tasers to test them.
I volunteer, Larry.
How was that, Larry?
I second that. All in
Larry,
favor?
Larry, you have been volunteered,
They just volunteered
We're having some taser training this afternoon, Larry, if you want to be there.
I noticed on the 30 cars on here.
It's not 1.6, I think it's 20.
Right. The vehicles for the fleet, it was reduced from 30 to 20.
Chief, when you
Yes.
assign these cars, do you feel like they get better care?
Yes, absolutely they do.
Oh, yeah.
They last a lot longer. They're taken care of a little bit more. They're not, driven and then parked and then driven the next shift, and they just don't wear out as quick.
What's your average life of a patrol car?
Probably 4 years. We've got some out there that are much older than that, but by just going off of maintenance and everything, and mileage, we'll probably average, a patrol car will average probably 50 to 60,000 miles a year being ridden. And then, so once we get over like 200,000 miles, then we're having some major maintenance issues on a lot of those vehicles.
As we get to this take-home program, yeah, obviously, just sure by not running 24 hours a day is gonna extend the life of the vehicles.
And so we're gonna get 20 a year for the next several years?
That's the anticipation, yes, sir.
And that's for patrol, and you look at, and what they've done a good job is looking at other vehicles, not necessarily those interceptors, but, you know, smaller vehicles
So-
for admin and things like that.
Absolutely. Outside of patrol, if we need to get a vehicle for an investigator or an administrative person, then we're not using the police patrol package vehicles. We're buying, government, contract vehicles that are much less, in value and will frankly last a lot longer because they're not being driven the way a patrol car would be.
What are the new patrol cars? Like what kind of cars?
They're Ford Explorers.
With the sedan chassis on them.
Yeah, they're the police package, the Interceptor, so they got a different suspension and speed-rated tires and different things on them
What
that
about undercover cars? Do you have
Don't worry
undercover
about them undercover guard, what they are.
are. We don't talk about
They're in your neighborhood, we don't wanna tell you.
No, I mean, but no.
Plainclothes,
No,
I mean,
didn't mean.
like an unmarked car,
I didn't mean what are they? I mean, do we need to replace any of those?
unmarked cars.
Yeah.
The unmarked cars, and some of those are in here under different units. So like the family justice vehicle, that's an investigator's vehicle, so those types of things. Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean what kind of car.
Gotta be on the lookout.
Can you tell us where they're gonna be the next week or two?
Yeah, but, going through like, one thing, Chief, the, vehicle trunk vaults. You know,
Yes.
we're talking about that, just,
Right, so, the issue with, some of the SUVs and the Ford Explorers and things like that, that we do have assigned, traditionally, our police vehicles have been sedans, and so they've had a locking trunk where we could store, rifles or other police-related equipment. Now, these SUVs, basically someone could bash a window in and get inside and access that equipment. And so what we're doing is purchasing, these vaults that are, they have RFID, codes in them, and so they can't be accessed if someone breaks into them. But, the officer can with a fob or whatever code and get in there, and they can store their rifles and other police-related equipment. So, it's a security measure.
trying to go over the interesting things that, in our conversation.
Right.
The high gear use of force training suit.
Right. So, we pride ourselves on the realistic training that we do, and part of that is defensive tactics type training when we're having to arrest someone that's not being compliant. And so these suits are they're foam type suits that our instructors wear. So if an officer needs to practice strikes or kicks or something like that, that they're wearing these suits. And so the current suits that we have are about 15 years old, and they're obsolete and outdated and worn, and they just need to be upgraded. And so those are some new training suits for that type of training.
All right, any other questions for Chief Corley?
Thank you for what you do.
Appreciate you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have Fire Department, and you will see their capital starts on page 2.
Morning.
Good morning.
We're kind of like Chief Corley. We have some staffing increases that we want to talk about, and also capital budget, so we'll be glad to talk about whichever y'all would like to go first.
Talk about the incentive increases, incentive staffing increases first, and we can, kind of the same order we just did with PD.
Okay, yeah, that works good. Going to talk about our incident staffing. Last year, we ran 6,900 medical calls, and I brought a graph for everybody to look at compared to what it has been last year. So over the last couple of years, our medical calls have been increasing, and a lot of it is really due to a national shortage of paramedics. So if you only have so many paramedics available, the hiring pool is very small, and there's a lot of agencies that are competing for paramedics. And so the fire department is kind of filling the gap to get people on the scene quicker and more medically trained. So we started identifying how we were dispatched several years ago, and throughout the past year, we have made some great strides working with MedCenter EMS. So now our dispatchers can actually dispatch us without waiting for a call back from MedLink, the ambulance service, to get us rolling. So it's almost an immediate response. As soon as our dispatchers hear that it's a cardiac issue, traumatic issue, chest pain, respiratory, we have a high priority calls that we're dispatched on. We're able to get on the scene and start providing patient care at a higher level now than we have in the past. And so mainly because, well, there's several things. We're getting the calls that we should have been getting several years ago. And also the growth of the city is growing tremendously. So our call volume is up. Roughly 73% of the calls that we make right now are medical calls. And we're getting on the scene a lot quicker. We're able to do a whole lot more. 2 years ago, we were fortunate enough to get a grant from the federal government, and it was a $450,000 grant. And what we are using that grant to do is to train our firefighters at a higher level medically. So we sent roughly 50 of our members to EMT school. We've sent another 47, is that correct, to advanced EMT and 2 to paramedic. And we're able to actually increase the level of service that we offer. Thanks to Dr. Revel, we evaluated the skills of all of our higher level trained medical personnel, and they're able to act at that level. So the paramedics are actually able to provide the medications, the drugs, the procedures, the skills, the same as what they're able to do on an ambulance whenever they get on scene. And it's really nice to see the growth that we've been able to achieve with MedCenter EMS and also with our dispatch. It's a total collaboration of everybody working together to increase and improve emergency medical services in Jackson.
That is amazing to see that number.
Well, along with that, what I brought was a heat map. These are the calls for the last 6 months that we've been on. And you can see where the areas that we're having a high volume of medical calls. And since we've transitioned to our new software system back last summer, we're now able to really target and focus those areas. We can move our equipment, our personnel, and our higher trained medical personnel into those areas and get an even quicker response than what we've been getting in the past. So everything that we're doing is really data driven. We're entering the calls as we get them, we're evaluating where these calls are happening at, and we're moving strategically to be able to focus on those programs. If we take a look at the types of calls that we've been running on, they're kind of all over the place, but they're all true medical emergencies. Cardiac arrest, cardiac events, breathing difficulties, traumatic events, including stabbings, gunshots. We get called on those as well. And when you look at our capital, one thing that we are asking for, and I'm not trying to transition there, but just to hopefully eliminate any future questions, we are asking for ballistic vests, 40 ballistic vests that will go on our engine companies and our medical units and on our battalion chief vehicles. Mainly because we get the call at the same time the police get the call. We typically stage and wait till the scene is secure, but we are in there very quickly after the dust is just now settling. And so we feel like that is a very important safety feature that we can provide our firefighters. and still provide the great services to the citizens. So I say all that to kind of lead into one thing that we're asking, staffing-wise. We're not asking for any additional personnel. We feel like we can get the job done with the staff that we have. What we would like to do would be to compensate those members that hold higher level emergency medical licensures, compensate our paramedics, compensate our advanced EMTs and our EMTs, because they are actually able to provide a higher level and skill to our citizens. And when we look across, some of the other cities around the area, and actually this just jumped out to me yesterday, somebody brought it to my attention, but a single role paramedic, what we are currently paying the single role paramedic is right around $62,000. In South Haven, they're advertising the same job for $74,500. And also for firefighters, the pay is $57,500. And that's for a 2-year firefighter with paramedic. So our compensation that we're asking for is a stipend, and it would be a graduated. So if you're a basic EMT, we're requesting $50 a pay period, or per paycheck, to be added to their check. If you're an advanced EMT, then it would be a $100. If you're a paramedic, then it would be $200. The $200 actually equates to $5,200 a year more that they would make for holding that certification and performing at that level of certification. Is that pretty clear? Mm-hmm. All in all, that entire project's gonna cost us about, we're estimating $247,000. And I will say this, is our firefighters, they're dedicated. The 162 that we are budgeted for, we have 10 positions that are open. I had one of them come to us the other day, said, "Chief, we can handle it. We can handle it if we can stick with the 162. And when I hear that kind of commitment coming from our firefighters, it's very refreshing, because we have a dedicated group of folks that want to make a difference in the community.
And Chief, I think what we talked about too, same thing with police department, knowing what we have, the vacancies that we have, knowing that we're gonna lose through natural attrition. This is not gonna have an impact on the overall budget from what we have right now.
Actually, this may make an increase of, like I said, 247,000.
Is that 247 salaries or salaries and benefits?
That would be in stipends.
Just, okay. So
Just in stipends
this on
alone.
top.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Any questions about our medical program?
I have a question in general, but I'll wait till you finish before I
Okay.
ask it.
How many calls would that 73% be? How many calls would you actually go medical?
How many?
Number of calls?
Well, we made 6,900 last year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And of those, what we also do is we evaluate. So we're trying to set up an effective program, but not a redundant program. So while we're setting that up, we're looking at response times. We're looking at the good that we're actually able to do when we get there. And so we're really prioritizing everything that we're doing. The one thing that I can say is that we're getting on the scene within 4 minutes, 67% of the time.
Good, good.
And that's within 4 minutes. And that also ties in nicely with the city's 4-Minute City program that Friends of Heart is doing as well, because that first 4 minutes is crucial in the event of a cardiac arrest. So the whole thing is really meshing together nicely for the citizens, we feel like.
This is very encouraging for a city to see the thought and the forethought that has gone into this, and also to prepare our city for growth and meeting healthcare needs of some of us getting older.
I can understand that for sure. One other program that we're looking at proposing is a stipend, another flat stipend for $50 per paycheck for our members that actually are assigned to specialty companies. So we have, above the firefighting and the medical, we have teams that are dedicated to hazardous materials. We have teams that are dedicated to rescue operations, vehicle accidents. They're highly trained in those type of events. We have a team that's trained in high angle. So if somebody's stuck on a water tower, they're trained to go up, get them, rappelling, the whole 9 yards. And then we also have just recently, over the last year, developed a team that will focus highly on missing persons. So if somebody goes missing, this team has been trained, we can deploy them, and we can get well-trained members out into the public quickly to hopefully locate them. So all in all, when we run the figures, the actual budget increase that we will ask for this year is $366,600. That will allow us to compensate our employees that are going above and beyond with everything that they're doing. Any questions?
Okay, if not, I'll ask the question I had. When a citizen calls 911 for a medical emergency, that's what it is, does the dispatcher send the EMT and the fire department?
So, when 911's called and it's a medical emergency, our dispatchers are asking them, Lenata can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is, do you need police, fire, or EMS? So if they say they need EMS, they need an ambulance, our dispatchers will automatically send it over to Med Center, the ambulance. And then they will stay online to listen what kind of an emergency it is. If it qualifies in our high priority, then our dispatchers will get us rolling while Med Center continues to get additional information about the patient.
Okay, if they get you rolling and it's an obvious medical emergency, do you send a fire truck out there?
We are, right now we do, yes, sir. We are transitioning and trying to transition into sending smaller vehicles.
That's where I was going.
Yes, so we actually hired over the past year 3 single-role paramedics. Four single-role paramedics. So the goal is those paramedics partner with the firefighter. And in that area that they are stationed, if a medical emergency comes in, the medical call will be handled by the paramedic and the firefighter. Thus, that allows us to keep the engine or the truck company in the house and available for fires.
That's where I was going. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions, staffing-wise, before we go on to capital, which is on page 2? All right.
Johnny has a question
Okay.
that I'll ask. The SWAT medics, is that a new thing, or is that something that you guys have always had? It's a new thing?
The SWAT medics is actually new, and I'll let
Okay.
Chief Jones, our medical officer, our medical chief, explain that to you.
So the SWAT medics, they're specially trained. We're gonna get continue hire training for them. It consists of 8 personnel. 2 of them are 2 of them are advanced EMTs, the other 6 are paramedics. Whenever SWAT, they go out for a warrant execution, our SWAT members, 2 of them go with them at all times. They train with them twice a month as well. They're not per se on the stack going in, but they're in very close proximity. So like if SWAT's going to this house, they're usually in the yard or right around the corner within seconds in case something happens either to the officer or to a victim, or suspect. But we are looking at those 8 members are gonna have to get a board certification in tactical paramedicine. So they're gonna be very, very highly trained, at the end of this. But they've all been selected. They went through a selection process just like SWAT did. So they weren't handpicked or, per se. They actually went through the process to get hired onto that team, so,
I think that's a good thing. So, that's good. Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
There you go. Question got answered, Connie.
Is there anything sticks out, council or chief on capital? And you already touched on the vests.
Yep, we'll mention, our plan with, the vehicle replacement that we're trying to do. So, we're trying to replace our battalion chief's vehicles, a lot quicker than we have in the past. And so, once we do that, then we repurpose their vehicles to our squad units, our medical squad units. And then those units that were used as a medical squad unit, we're actually gonna turn into a brush truck. So we're trying to get more bang for our buck and be very conservative with the money that we spend. So we have a plan to keep moving the vehicles down and putting them in use in areas where they're still needed, but they don't run very often. And when we're able to do that, we're able to save the money. We don't have to buy a brush truck. We plan to put a skid unit in the back of one of our pickup trucks to be able to handle brush fires. So we have thought out the vehicle replacement, and that's gonna take place over the next couple of years.
Any other questions for the chiefs on capital?
There is one that I also, while y'all are looking, and I'm gonna refer to Chief Turner on this, but it is the GTAC tablets and what that'll allow us to do in the field as well.
And those tablets will allow us to undock the computers off of the truck, actually take them into wherever the situation is, specifically EMS calls, and address the patient on site. So it's basically an upgrade to what we have right now, additionally allowing us to use the vehicle locators. That way we can track the vehicles in real time. So it's a upgrade and expansion of what we already have.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Thank
But we appreciate you all.
We appreciate you, for sure.
You got a question?
I was just saying, excellent presentation. I could not read a lot of that. Is there any way you could give us?
We actually have copies for you.
It is. It's got all these lights right here.
It is not the lights, Larry.
It's them
Thank you.
glasses.
You got glasses and age.
But yeah, it's just the glare on them, I guarantee you. All right, next up is Central Dispatch. And their capital's on page 1.
Hi, good morning, Council and Mayor.
Good morning.
Advise capital first.
Over any staffing changes you have first, and we can jump into capital, and if there's any questions from council.
Okay. As far as staffing goes, we still have one available position. I have 5 that are in training right now. The only request that I am making this year is that we were able to provide 2 more positions for Central Dispatch. A lot of that has got to do with the increase of the fire calls. as well as the 911 calls within our system. Underneath the National Fire Protection Act, which is an NFP, they require that you have 2 dispatchers per the fire dispatch on duty. In our dispatch center, we're multitask and we're multi-trained. So not only do we handle the police dispatching, we also handle the fire dispatching as well. So when a fire call comes in, medical alert comes in, that doesn't stop that particular dispatcher from answering the phone still or answering the radio. They can do both at any given time. So our limitations are the phone. So, and I did bring a 3-year stat for you to look at on our calls for service. I don't know if you can.
Larry, can you see that?
Can you see?
Actually, I can't sit that good.
Can you see that? Okay.
There's a Zoom button somewhere on that.
Oh, it's good. I get it.
I can read it too.
Zoom.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
There you go, Larry.
Way.
Okay.
If you can't see that, then.
Bingo.
All right. So if you notice above, it says 911 inbound calls that we received, 2021, 22, and 23. Then you've also got the total amount of calls there because it does the abandoned calls as well. Then down below is our administrative lines for service. That's our non-emergency, quote, emergency calls. We get just as many emergency calls on the 7-digit phone as we do on the 911, believe it or not, but we do. Those are inbound calls. The outbound calls are the calls that we made per request of police and fire with a total, and then the average there of all the above.
Explain that. You get a call in and then you call the police or fire.
When we get a 911 call or we get an administrative call in, regardless, because like I said, if you dial the 425-8400 number and it comes into our PBX, goes into dispatch for calls for service, then whatever it may be, we dispatch it from the dispatch center for police or fire, also 911s as well. And Chief was right in what he was explaining to you on how we answer 911 and dispatch 911. In the past, we transferred medical with a one-touch button. It's just a direct, it's like a speed dial, but it's a one-touch button directly into the EMS dispatch center. We would stay on the line long enough to listen to see if there was a need for police. If we did not hear that it was a stabbing or a shooting or an assault of something of that nature, bodily damage, then we would not stay on the phone. Now we are staying on the line long enough to make that determination as to whether or not we send fire. So therefore, the other lines are ringing. So this would allow us to have the ability to have that other dispatcher that does multi-functions sitting there to answer those extra lines that are coming in. This one here is calls for service. Can we go back down? There you go. This is the one for calls for service for JPD and JFD. So if you notice here, within 2021 to 2023, it has changed for the fire department quite a bit. Police is sort of stabilized. It fluctuates up and down, given 2,500 at a time. If you would like to see a comparison, I'm going to ask before I show it because you may not want to see it. But if you'd like to see a comparison of an average for Madison County Fire Dispatch and Madison County Sheriff Department Dispatch, I also have that too. Would you like to see that?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. You ready? This is Madison County. Their inbound calls in comparison to ours. I don't think I'm going to be able to get both of them on there.
Enough noticeable, 7,000 versus 54,000.
We triple.
Yeah.
We triple. So you're talking 54 to their 7,200 for 911 calls. That's just 911 calls. Then you've got the inbound administrative line calls. Theirs is 8677. That's with the 53. So their administrative calls are in the 30s. Then you've got their total averages versus our total averages for the last 3 years. Pretty neat, huh? We also have the capability that, you know, your cell phones are only as good as the towers that you hit upon. So therefore, Madison County Sheriff Department, Madison County Fire, THP, and our agency as well have the capability of answering those 911 calls when they come in. We are the primary PSAP for the West Tennessee area outside of Shelby County. So we're able to take calls from Tipton County, Lake County, Fayette County, if something happens to their PSAP as well. But this, we're able to transfer with a one-touch button. Transfer is really not a good word to use because it makes it sound like we're putting them on hold. We never put them on hold. We just hit that line that goes directly into the dispatch centers. Huh? Handoff, okay, that's a good word. Transfer is not a good word because they don't, NENA does not like that, which is the National Emergency Association. So, as you can tell, we can transfer, hit that button, handoff to the other agencies by touching a button. And they can do likewise.
If there's an emergency and they're calling on their cell phone and they don't know where they are, can you find them?
Yes, sir. We can ping that number within so many feet, but yes, sir, we sure can. And we can also make the determination if it's a county call or if it's a city call needs to go.
We can find Frank when he wanders off.
I can.
Well, I was just thinking about somebody driving through and they hit the wrong exit and they run off the road or something.
Well, I can top that. We had an elderly individual. Well, they were not elderly. They had some type of mental disability that went missing out on Hartsbridge Road out in the county. And the tower that he was pinging on with his cell phone was coming into us instead of going to Madison County Sheriff Department. So that's one we did not hand off. We worked in conjunction with, because we kept him on the line. We pulled up our geographic mapping. We were able to see that he was walking further away into the wooded area towards the swamp than instead of coming back to the actual public area where he needed to be coming. And of course, we were trying to give him directions at the same time, but it wasn't working well. But it did work very well for Madison County Police and Fire and City to get in there and get him with a four-wheeler before it got too terribly late. It got dark, but we were able to still see it before the cell phone went dead. Yes. So that's the only thing. You're looking at $40,000 for two up each. So that would be an increase in my salary budget, probably with benefits right at 100. I don't include the benefits. That's not my.
All right, then we go to capitals on page 1. It's
Capital is sort of like a repeat version. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. The reason I'm asking for the 4 additional monitors is because we have 4 now. We have a set-up system, sort of like JPD does. However, in my department, we monitor it 24/7, 365. So it is monitored nonstop within our department. So adding cameras, because we have so many cameras and target area cameras within the city, we get very small view on the system. So it's very difficult, where if we had multiple monitors, the cameras would be bigger picturettes for us.
So,
go ahead, I was going to ask you any questions.
what do you mean, what are you monitoring with a
We're
camera?
monitoring that target area. Have you ever been over at the police department and saw their setup? We have the same thing inside of Central Dispatch. And there's 2 setups. There's one within the dispatch center itself, and then there's actually one at the primary answering point for the police department in the city of Jackson. So there are 2 employees. There's actually 4 employees in that department that work Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. and then, of course, it rolls over to dispatch. But they're able to monitor the cameras, and they just sit and view all day long. They swap out answering the phones, and then they monitor the cameras, because it would be really monotonous to sit there 8 hours. But they rotate out answering the phones. They've actually done a great deal of benefit for the police department. A couple of felony arrests have been made by them watching the cameras. They watched one in particular one day where a white Buick, there was 3 heads, individuals standing on the back side of this Buick. They were looking in the trunk. Dispatchers were curious, the PBX operators were curious what they were looking at. We can actually zoom in and see what you're cooking on your grill outside in the backyard. So they zoomed in, and when all 3 heads raised up, the back end was loaded with guns. They gave the information to dispatchers, the dispatchers dispatched it out. Of course, it was a rolling vehicle at the time, and the officers made a felony traffic stop and arrest, just by them watching that.
Thought the story was gonna end with a body in there.
Yeah. The only thing they request is a speaker. They'd love to have a speaker where they could talk to these people out on the street, and I said, no.
Is that all over, or is that just the blue flashing camera?
It's just the blue flashing.
I need
It's-
to tell that. I need to take my little girl and let you talk to her, cause
Yeah.
I lie about those blue cameras to her and tell her
We do
that
have some-
they follow everything that she does.
We do have some
No.
covert cameras, and then we also have the block cameras as well.
Yes. Those come in majorly handy when we have a hit and run accident or we have a theft to occur, and they can go back and play them backwards, and we can get information for police that way as well. They're great. We have the school cameras that they allow us to have, not indoors, outdoors, which is good.
All right, you got any questions for Lenanda on capital? All right.
Thank you, sir.
We've already done maintenance, so next up will be groundskeeping.
Good morning. Good morning.
If y'all don't know, the first time meeting, this is Mr. R.C. Waddell, is our groundskeeping director. Took over for all the groundskeeping in January, so,
He's killing it.
and doing a phenomenal job.
I appreciate it. You know, it's capital, our vehicles, I talked to the mayor, you know, I'd love to be able to get 2 a year, but I'll take 1 a year until we kinda get caught up. As far as mowers, I know I've got a mower there and one for the sportsplex. As you know, there's a lot of property that we are mowing, and we try to keep an extra as far as a backup in case one does go down. And right now, where we are, we're pretty much using everything we've got, so it's kind of would be a backup. And for the years 3, 4, 5, guys, not being there long enough to really know what I need.
He was there, he was all 3 weeks, we started asking him to get a
Yeah,
5-year
so
capital plan, so.
I will definitely be working on getting you more information, as far as what I see that we need. But capital, you know, the truck, we've got trucks from 2004, 2008. We're in dire need of pickup trucks. The trailers, we've been fortunate this year, I'm gonna be able to purchase 3 new trailers, which is coming in handy. We've got some that are really rough shape that shouldn't be out on the road. But, you guys got any questions for me? I mean, I'd love to have you guys come out and visit the place.
As far as your staffing goes, we wanna get through 1 year with you guys now and then kinda reevaluate after that, and then.
Yes, I think what I've inherited, we've had a couple guys that, we had some PPL guys, and we still do. The 3 that are still with us are currently in the process of being hired on. The only additional staff or people that I was wanting to take from part-time, full-time, or 2 full-time were guys at the Sportsplex that have been with me there for a while. And they will be used throughout the city. They will not just be at the Sportsplex. They will be used at Melissa's, North Park, Conger, every park that we have. And that will just kind of finish off the staff that I currently have. And I know increase increase of pay I asked for with my guys at groundskeeping. Just to be honest with you, I don't know if anybody's ever asked for them. Talking to them, I think it's passed and been needed, to bring them up to, you know, somewhere where we would be close to, that I feel like they would benefit. I mean, it's, everything's gone up. These guys have been making the same money, and girls, for a long time. And I told them I'd be here to stand up for them and fight for them and try to get them to where I feel like they need to be. They all offer, and they all do a great job. Moving forward, you know, we're doing things a little differently. Every one of them have been hands-on, really appreciative and receptive of what we're trying to do. So I'm very fortunate, to be honest with you. It could have been a lot worse.
Where are you located?
We're on Wisteria, 75A Wisteria. It's off East Chester.
Get on Wisteria, turn right off East Chester, and just drive till you get in the parking lot.
Yeah,
That's all
they
that
go
is.
dead into us.
And then, how many, employees full-time? I know you're asking for more full-time, like from part-time to full-time, but, if that happens, how many do you have total?
As far as in groundskeeping?
Yeah.
Right now, I wanna say we have 27, and the 3 PPL kids that we're adding on puts us right at 30. And I feel like they've always been right around 30 to 35 employees. Not being said they've had that here lately, but I think that's kind of what their average has been. The Sportsplex only have 2 full-time people. Myself,
Big area.
and I have 2 full-time assistants.
Yeah,
Everyone else there is part-time.
okay.
I have some part-time, full-time that get the holiday pay, that's it, just 2 guys that are that, but yes, ma'am.
And then what is the, like you were talking about, like salary, like increases, and what do they initially make coming on? Like the ground,
As far as with the groundskeeping
Yeah,
part,
yeah.
they're ranging from 14, 50, most of them are making less than $20 an hour.
Okay.
That have been there for, I've got one gentleman that's been there 40 years, several have been there 20 to 25 years. Mayor can tell you, a lot of them have been in the groundskeeping with the city for a long time.
And has nobody, I mean, nobody's just ever like requested increases in salaries, or, I mean, they've just been, just, wow.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So I just feel like it's deserving.
Yeah.
We're gonna make the place look the way all of you guys want it to look, the way we want it to look mainly. We take pride in what we do, and by doing that, I want them to take pride in what we're doing too, because it shows. Anything we don't do, you're gonna see, and I'm gonna get talked to
It's
about.
hard work, I mean,
They're outside
especially
every
when
day.
it's hot, like
Yeah.
in the summer
And
and
it's
stuff.
cold in the wintertime.
Yeah.
This crew was the crew that did the leaves
Yeah.
for the past 2, 3, 4,
5
5 years. In the wintertime, that's what they turn in, so now we've got the leaves kind of switched back over to the street, so this is gonna give us more opportunity to spend times in the parks,
Yeah.
downtown, areas that, you know, just have been neglected because they've been doing other things. So, like I said, I told them I would ask, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do, and, I'm gonna keep asking too, guys, I promise you. But, you know, equipment, mowers, right now is what we need, and then I would love to see the guys, what I presented to the mayor, kind of where we could, a starting point for them. Because the guys are outside every day,
Yeah.
and they work hard, they do. We've got a lot of property that we're taking care of, I had no idea when I took this position,
How long have you been in the position?
January.
Okay, I was gonna say, I
So
thought-
RC took over, started with North Park, he was, Sportsplex started with North Park, then
Melissa's,
Campbell,
Kate
Campbell Melissa's last summer, and then January took over all the groundskeeping.
And the grass that you,
Well, I'm gonna advocate for you.
the grass that you cut, what is that? Where did, you don't cut like the rights of ways and,
No, we don't, we
You
do
just
not do
cut
the
what?
right of ways, the medians, we do every park, every city, fire, police,
I got you.
everything else the city
Downtown.
ons,
Yeah.
we maintain.
All
I
the
got
flower
it.
beds, so, you know,
Yeah.
Exclusively city property.
yeah, Councilman
Pretty
Lawrence.
much everything.
Might be a little bit early, but how many trucks do you need? How many do you currently have?
Oh, currently, I'm gonna say I have operating probably 18. There's a few, now, we've got some vehicles, I feel like they're gonna be going back to the street department as far as leaf trucks and stuff that are on this right now. But as far as vehicles that we use day to day, I have a 2 to 3 man crew, basically, that I'm running. Those crews handle multiple parks. And then we've got guys that are Pringles, so we've got several different crews, but right now, I would love to be able to, in the next 2 to 3 years, at least get 4 or 5 more trucks total.
Is that to replace these or in addition to these?
Replace mainly. I mean, I got a lot of our vehicles, 2004, 2008, 2012, a lot of them were, a lot of mileage. We will salvage what we can.
Okay, not to put words in your mouth, but 18's a good number if they were good trucks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
RC, how often, you talk to Kenny Franks?
About once a month.
Once a
He'll
month?
call, text, or
Yeah.
ask me something, yeah.
I got you. Hey, question though, as far as servicing and maintenance of your mowers and other small engines, are you outsourcing that or doing some in-house? What's that look like?
I have a mechanic.
You do?
I'm fortunate, we do have a mechanic groundskeeping. I do not have one at Sportsplex, but by saying that, James will be partaking in that too. Myself and my 2 assistants Sportsplex, everything we could take care of, we did all the oil changes, we did, we didn't grind the rims, but we back lap, we service everything we can. If something breaks down that we can't service before, I would take it to the garage. I know the garage is very busy with other things. I have outsourced a few things that are specialty stuff with the Sportsplex, but everything in groundskeeping, even with the trucks, changing tires, changing oil, stuff like that, my mechanic does.
Okay, good.
So,
And how do you feel about your, security over there at Wisteria? I know we've had some trouble in the past. You got it locked down?
yeah, we have cameras everywhere. Since I've been there, nothing's really happened. We've had a few parks that some stuff has been broken into, but nothing's been tore up. I know in the future they're wanting to move possibly. I've told everyone I'm okay with where we're at right now. I'm in no hurry. We have the space for everything that we have as far as equipment and stuff, so, in the future, if that's something they want to do, I know it's been talked about, it's up to you guys. But no, we haven't had a problem. I have my secretary, Ms. Renee's there, and you guys will find I'm not in the office very much.
I say, I'm about to say, y'all have more question for RC. He hasn't been inside this much in about 6 months. He's not used to it.
I mean, I've got a good staff, so.
He'd rather be on the mower right now than talking to y'all, I can tell you.
Is that a
But, I mean, like I said, my door's always open. If you guys wanna come out there, I'd be glad to show you, take you around, show you what our guys do. But, don't have any other questions? All right.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, next is under the long list is Mr. Tony Black. And their capital is in some different spots, right? We're gonna talk recreation and parks first. Yeah, page 5, okay. I think I'll actually. Yeah, so we'll call them up in order. We'll start with Christie and then, yeah, we'll call you up.
You got an entourage, Tony.
Yeah. Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Russian this
morning.
Appreciate the support that you all have given us over the years, and especially these last 5 years. The Recreation Parks Department, particularly our parks, have really made a tremendous turnaround, and we thank you all for that. But before we want to get into the senior center, that's going to be the staffing issue. The senior center is due to be completed by December of this month, of this year, potentially no later than January. So we've sat down and we've looked at what our staffing will be for about a half a year. We're going to have a director, a programmer, a receptionist, and a building attendant. For total year salaries would be combined about $175,000, but for the half year, we're looking at roughly about 87,500 for the remainder of the year, from January till June. So that may vary as we looked at the rates that these positions pay, and so that's going to be one of the things. In terms of the capital, I'll let Christy share some good news with you regarding why there is no request for capital for the senior center.
We can officially announce today that we received a grant from the Department of Economic and Community Development, State of Tennessee. It will fully furnish our senior center. It will also provide 2 transportation ADA accessible vans for our senior center. That grant is a 90-10 match. So that match is included in the budget for the upcoming year. And that grant total amount is $405,000 and some change. So we will not actually use any funding to furnish the building.
That's good.
And the part of that, in terms of the interior in the gym area, AARP is going to fund the floor. All they require for us is to put their symbol on it. It will have pickleball permanently inlaid into the court in the gym. So that's great work. I know RC talked about his department, and he does have a great department, but everybody knows we have the best department, so I just had to throw that in there.
The 175 salaries, was that including benefits or plus benefits?
No, that's just the salary, not the benefits. As you look at our capital for recreation administration, if you have questions regarding that, I do want to include in that, of course, Cypress Grove is part of that. So we've got 30-some thousand there to redo the boardwalk.
Mark, I included athletics and recreation parks kind of all together. So we'll do the recreation parks piece, and then any question on athletics, then you just want to come up. So that's kind of all inclusive there.
Yeah. And when you do the Civic Center, if you don't mind, Tosh also is over the ballpark, so he can do both of those at that time.
So we got, look, capital, so recreation and parks, capital is on 5, and then athletics is on page 1. So those would be your 2 right there for Christy and for Mark.
Right. Go, Christy, we'll turn it over to you. Let me make this statement. As we have replaced Stella Duncan and Bemis within the past 5 years, Melissa's this year, Conger Park, a portion was done a few years back, but then we added a whole new piece this year, Paradise Park, Wallace Road, and you'll see we've got, next year we've got Centennial, which is due, and we're gonna let Christy cover all of that, but I just wanted to say to y'all, we have upgraded quite a bit of our playgrounds. And I was out Sunday, Conger was full. Last Friday, Paradise was full of kids and their family. Melissa's is continuously full. Had a lady to complain because it had a backup. That's good.
On the playground.
On the playground. And of course, we had a little incident at Melissa's. A 6-year-old got into a toddler swing, and the fire department had to come cut her out. So
that wasn't my kids.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Christy.
Let me ask you before you do that. I didn't hear you say anything about Lincoln Courts.
Farseer.
What about that?
It's on next year.
It's on what?
It's on next year's, but we're gonna do some things there. That playground equipment is relatively less, about 10 years old, actually. But we got some
plans.
It's in really good
shape.
Yeah, we've got some plans for the pavilion area and everything for next year. Yeah, we're not leaving that out. That's my old childhood playground.
Thank you.
Special attachment.
Are there any, I think at North Park, there were cameras put up. Are there any cameras at any other parks? Because I know the restrooms.
Every park.
Every park has, like, because the bathrooms and the,
Yeah.
are always being vandalized and stuff. Is there? Are
Their
there any
cameras
near
up
there?
now. They'll
Okay.
put-
Yeah, they're up there
put it-
near you. Obviously, you can't put them in.
Because
but
we
it's
need to prosecute those kids and send them to me.
And then we
Now,
also
when
have,
dispatch was talking, now that may have been a separate incident, but I do know for a fact that at North Park, the cameras came into play And it may have been what she was talking about, because a couple of months ago, they zeroed in on a car at North Park, and they had guns and
And we
drugs.
also, remember you all approved in the fall, maybe?
Yeah.
All the flock cameras that go at the
Yeah.
entrance of the park, and then on the directional ways on the parks that are on, busy streets, so.
And those have all been installed.
Yep.
And are operational now. All the flock cameras are.
Thank you.
I wanna brag on y'all because we're playing ball right now. We're playing ball at County Park, and it just doesn't compare.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions on the capitals for this year that we may address for you?
So just a couple of notes, you note that Centennial Park is gonna get a new playground. We are working with Game Time to make that a national demonstration site. That's gonna give us some grant funding, but that's also gonna give us some data. In 2 years, they'll be able to provide us information of who's visiting that park, what they're using it for, what they're getting out of it. At North Park, there is an older playground that's next to Gabriel's Garden. We're gonna be pulling that out. Our plan is to put a teen and adult challenge course there. It will be all turfed. It will have a 40-yard dash. It's super cool. It'll have a time clock that kids can hit when they start it, and it'll tell them what their time was.
Where is that?
That's gonna be at North Park.
On the bottom playground now, that floods every time it sprinkles.
Floods every time it's raining.
Yeah.
And just with Centennial, we met with the West Tennessee River Basin, and they're gonna provide all the rock for the washout that takes place starting on the north side of Chester by the ballpark, running under into Shirlene Mercer. It's eroding, and they're going to provide all the rocks, and our stormwater team would do that. Also, the fencing that people have been complaining about, that is in the capital this year, to fence from the back of the concession stand all the way down past the splash pad. It was recommended that we fence that. It's very, very dangerous. It's luckily no kid is falling in, but yeah, that's gonna get fenced. Your boy, he always taking video of that, so.
What about the splash pad? Any update on that? Are y'all gonna, it's outdated there?
Yeah, we'll look at that later, but not this year.
What did you want me to touch on?
No, as I say, there's also a section in here, I was trying to find the page, it's on in the Capitol for it's at the bottom of page 3 for us, but the LPRF grant, so we can touch on what's in the regular capital and also what's the timeline for the grant too, is what's gonna get implemented.
Okay.
That's on bottom of page 3 for the council.
So we're officially under contract for the LPRF grant. The plan for that is for us to enter design phase July 1, as soon as those funds are available for us to use. The 5 projects that were approved were resurfacing Shirlene Mercer, adding a restroom at Shirlene Mercer, putting a parking lot and a walking trail in at Wallace Road, the skate park, which is gonna be located at the tennis complex, adding a restroom to Stella Duncan, and then the new playground at Windy City Road. So all of those projects, we will enter the design phase in July. How that works is we submit our designs to TDEC. TDEC comes in and does an in-person visit at each of those, and then they approve and say you can move forward. So ideally, some of these projects will be able to start moving ground probably in the fall, I would assume. We have a lot of the plans already done. I would say they're 95% documents, so once we get those completed, we'll be moving forward with that.
What's your best guess insofar as placing and starting moving dirt or whatever about those bathrooms you just mentioned at Shirlene Mercer's Park? That's what I was looking for on here.
I would say that will probably be in the spring of 25 is when we'll start moving dirt for the restrooms. Now, the
Yeah,
walking
that's what
trail will likely happen before then.
Yeah, the restrooms were not really concerned.
But the restrooms will probably, and those are gonna be prefabricated buildings that we bring in, so we just have to set up the foundation for those, and those will be brought in and delivered.
Another aspect to that, we had to make sure we have it in the right place so that it is out of the mitigation. The portion of the mitigation over that park is that there can't be any structure with a roof on it. So where the mound is and all that is outside of mitigation area. So we've got a spot picked out, so that's so that we wouldn't have an issue with TDEC.
Right, so I can tell my folk then next spring, we'll start building the bathroom. I can say that?
Yes, sir.
Ideally,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you can say
You
that.
said ideally.
Ideally, yes.
Get you off-
We're working with the state, so we're kind of at their mercy
their
once
mercy.
we.
And to get you off the hook, you can refer them to us, refer them to me or something.
Same thing for Stella Duncan.
Yes.
Time frame.
Yes.
10%.
That's all that.
20, 10.
And then a lot of the upgrades that you're seeing on the other page as far as fencing and those type of things, restroom upgrades, as you all know, we are anticipating state games beginning June of 2025. Several of our sites will be utilized as venues for those games. So, say that again.
Is it pickleball games?
Oh, it's gonna be pickleball, tennis, disc golf,
Everything.
baseball, softball,
All right.
ultimate frisbee. So our disc golf courses, we know for sure are gonna be used. Melissa's Park, we know for sure is gonna be used. So a lot of these, North Park's gonna be used, the tennis complex, Conger. So a lot of these upgrades are to, really highlight and beautify our parks and make them accessible and, pleasant to the visitors.
So the track that they are building behind JCM or to be built, that has nothing to do with.
That's
the games
city,
that
that's
come.
school system.
All right.
And it could be possibly used as a venue.
Yeah.
If it's completed, it will be
Yeah.
regulation, so it could be used as a venue.
Don't count on that one, yeah.
Yeah, they have.
Hey, Tony,
They have economic.
right there at,
activity policy. Other states have done it.
Centennial, they still parking behind the school. What can we do to? put
We
a
are
gate up?
we're working on developing a
Yeah.
gate system to prevent park, because they're doing the same thing at the
And to
splash
be
pad.
fair, when they designed it, it was designed poorly because a person parks, and if you're having a picnic at the pavilions in the back, you gotta walk a pretty good distance. So people drive the trail to get there, but we're gonna block it off because there's some problems that we're having with running the grass and ruts and eating up the pavement that's built for a walking trail and not a car. So we've got a plan to block it off. So they just have to carry this stuff.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I be excused?
No,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, so any questions for recreation and parks, capital that's there? So you look at different structures they're looking at. And then, so if not, or if there is, I'll pause for a second. If not, then we'll move on to athletics, which is on page 1 of your capital.
Just so we can be a little bit easier too, I could answer anything you had on Westwood Recreation Center, Westwood Tennis Center, or the tennis complex also.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Those are all on different pages.
Sorry.
6 is, Westwood Community Center.
Yeah.
tennis.
Just one of the main things on is the pickleball court conversions. You want to talk about how popular pickleball is.
My
It's,
neighbor
it
talked
is,
to me about this, getting them, and was so excited. Like,
yeah,
there's a
pickleball
group of
is,
people that-
it's the
We're
fact.
currently,
Yeah.
converting 6 more of the courts at Conger Park, that's in process now. One of the things you'll see on there at North Park is we wanna take the old unused tennis courts and convert those to, according to the mayor, we're gonna do half this year and hopefully half next year. We'll be able to put 8, cause there are 3 tennis court, setups over there, so we'll be able to put 8 more, on this upcoming capital, hopefully.
Drive by Conger Park, nights and weekends and see how many pickleballers there are.
How many people do we have at the tournament?
It was over 300.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they spend the night.
Tourism boost, yeah.
Yes.
It brings in more.
Will
money.
any of the Westwood Tennis Center be pickleball courts?
Well, what we do now, during the 6 months during the winter, fall, and winter and early spring, we have indoor contract time. People pay to use those courts. So what we do on Saturday and Sunday is we put tape down, and they play, we have, temporary nets, and we put up, and they play pickleball in there, and they rent the space for that. One of the things we have on the tennis center, is just adding the permanent lines on there where we don't have to put the tape down. We're only doing it 2 days now, so in theory, you could play, somebody could play tennis and then somebody could play pickleball at the same time. We would sell a lot more space that way.
Then at Conger, we'll be painting, replacing the fencing. It's relatively the same since it's been built, and it's gonna give it a whole new look. And we're gonna put LED lighting, so, just stay tuned for Conger.
Yeah, it's gonna look really nice. We had, the cost of replacing that fence over there was about $100,000. We can get that painted for way less, and we actually had some done at the community center. We had Storm tear down a portion of the fence, and that 10-foot coated fence. It took 16 months to get, so if you ordered it now, you probably wouldn't have it. We can have it painted for far less, and they did that at the community center, and it looks awesome, and it's been up for a year, and you can't, still looks brand new.
And one other thing at Congress, just stay tuned for, those old tennis offices there, we've converted it to the police department will have a substation at Conger. It's completed, it's just a matter of them, we've got our portion of what they wanted. They wanted a microwave and a refrigerator, and they've got to bring their desks and their stuff in, and once you get that, we'll have a grand opening and announcement about it in partnership with the police department. We felt that would be
And we
good.
talked yesterday, Tony, we getting we got 2 more wheelchair swings too.
2 more, we've already have them on site. One's gonna be at Centennial, once we get it changed out, and then we're gonna put one in Conger this year because Conger is ready, and we know it won't affect our ADA, but we're gonna put that in there
So
this year
we'll
too.
have a full access wheelchair swing, north, south, east, and west to the park.
Right, and the center city, yeah.
Westwood Tennis Complex,
Tennis center,
athletics.
athletics.
So any questions on those things for Mark? We mark those off while I'm thinking about that.
I have a question on that, actually. Obviously, everybody knows what I do. They're trying to resell the Westwood Garden land. And one of the caveats on the thing is whoever buys it has to put a park in.
Yep.
So, if they put a park in, would it become a city park, or would it be a private park?
It would depend on the co-op, and whatever the MOU would be between the city and it has to be a community park, but whoever operates it, maintains it, would depend on that. It depends on if they do an HOA to do that, but it has to be for the community. It can't be a private
So
park.
it won't be anything that comes out of this budget?
Mm-mm. Now, the developer has to make the park. All right, thanks. And then I think, I put all these down. Right now, this year, there's no request for Keep Jackson Beautiful. We're fully staffed in Keep Jackson Beautiful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Staff of 1.
we help her out, so.
And
But
so,
next year, we will look at, we did have a vehicle for her.
Yeah.
Cause she does a lot with Earth Day and other stuff where she has to move stuff, so we figured that we'd be all right this year, and then next year, we'll be looking at that.
I think we're good. Y'all good with, for Mark? Don't leave, Chrissy, because I wanted to bring back up for one thing, talk about the ADA when we get done, but, so we'll go Civic Center, Ballpark. Tosh. Civic Center's on 1, Ballpark's on 1, there we go. That's a pretty big expense on the Civic Center for risers. If you all have dealt with anything at the Civic Center that requires risers and to change out of it, then,
It's intense.
you know the need for it. They're original to the building.
Yeah, I didn't know what they went through. Get those risers up.
They've seen a lot, been through a lot. What's the expected life on a new set of risers, approximate?
12 to 15.
Oh, okay.
And how long have we had these?
60.
69.
Longer than their lifespan should have been.
68,
That's
69,
for sure.
Why have they not, why have we not replaced them?
It's grandfathered,
It's called
Mayor.
deferred maintenance.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. It has to be broke squared.
Been there for 40 years, $10.
I want to give some credit
Y'all
to
thought I
our,
was lying, so I came in 2019 behind the 8 ball, dude.
our municipal maintenance department has done a fantastic job of helping us and getting those things to where they're safe for people to be on while we still have them. So I just want to throw that out that they've been a huge help to us.
What will these be like? Will they be that same, like, hard?
Very similar. They have to be because it's 922 seats. So they're built in Canada and shipped here.
The seats will remain the same.
Seats will remain.
It'll
We're
just
gonna
be the
actually take the
structures.
existing seats and put on the new structure. So all the understructure and the platforms will be new. We're gonna keep the
Because
seats.
it wasn't, less than 10 years ago, the seats were replaced.
I wanna say it was in 19.
Yeah, the seats were replaced, and so it's the structure underneath the seats that requires the moving up and folding and, loss of limbs to get up and down.
And they tried swapping out the parts, doing repair maintenance, and kinda worked.
They gotta, y'all gotta take a piece loose to move them, and then when you
Well,
get them set.
So now when we get them set, what maintenance has done is we've got metal bars, solid metal that goes across the entire section and bolts through it so that it keeps it from moving back and forth. So now when you walk on them, you're not nauseated. You're just fine. So like I said, they've been a extreme help. And they come, every time we put them in and out, it requires a couple of maintenance guys to come help our crew. And at the drop of a hat, we'll be there.
Which is right now a 2-day process, at least.
To 3
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah,
The other one will be a 6-hour process
Okay, yeah,
for
that's-
new ones.
And you got the elevator for them worked out, we're not worried about anybody.
That was intense. We almost drove to Atlanta to get the part to make it happen, but we made it happen, and they were very appreciative.
Gotcha. Natasha, aside from, the risers, do y'all have any, kind of aesthetic projects planned, sprucing the place up a little here and
A
there?
lot of the aesthetic stuff can be done from operating.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of that stuff in-house. I did try some new paint colors on a couple of doors, but I'm gonna need somebody with like a Julie Holt eye on decorating besides myself. But we could do some interior
We
painting
did a
and replacing
complete
things.
stripping
Make it
and-
black.
Stripping and waxing
Yeah.
all the floors.
We did the floors. They look really good, so.
Looking at, you laugh, but the inside of the hall there would look good black.
It probably would.
It would look good black. You call me, I'll come here.
Come on.
Have y'all been inside our fairgrounds since it got redone?
That looks really good too.
Yeah.
Yep. Any more questions on the Civic Center stuff? And then I've also got the ballpark as well, the baseball stadium out there. I think the only thing for this year was the netting that protects all the scrollers, that I call them, that aren't paying attention to the game.
Yeah.
Protect the posters, right?
All looks good.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Oh, you got something?
Real quickly.
Okay.
What would be the net income receipts versus expenditures you project?
I mean, you're averaging close to 60,000 a month just to run the building. So, I mean, we're brought in, we're gonna be over 200,000 revenue of this year with
600,000,
probably about a $700,000 budget, if not a little bit more. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tosh.
Yep.
Thank you.
John Robert.
He had a bid opening at 10:30.
Okay.
With purchases, so if there's a way to skip him and come back to him, I'll
Yeah,
let him know.
we'll do that, that's fine. Then we got, the Ned is next. David?
My man, David.
Page 4.
Page 4, thank you.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Dave wants to replace some steps out front, keep people from falling and suing.
Right. Well, and I haven't spoken with Tony about this, so don't get mad at me. But looking at our 23-24 capital project is replacing the 2 HVAC units on top of the building, which has turned into a little bit more of an involved thing. So I'm wondering if we need to bump up the 25-26 up to 24-25. I'll follow all the rules, we'll do that and how we need to do it. But if we've got the crane and we've got the 2 units and we can order the other 2 to replace the on top, might as well do it all in one, I figure. But however, we need to do that.
Do we know approximately what the expense of the crane is?
It was $3,080 to rent it for, I believe it's a 2-day rental.
And you got someone paid for that for us, right?
Yes, that was covered by a gift. So we've got that, the
Now,
two.
In order for us to, and we've shared with the mayor, in order for us to get the units replaced, TOSHA was called in. Of course, they don't tell you who called it. And the roof is very unsafe. And so we brought a contractor in, and I don't do roofs, but I went up, and it is scary. In order for them to be able to do the project, TOSHA would not approve us to get the units replaced until we put the railing around. So we had a contractor come out, and he's supposed to get that information to us today. On the
Railing
call.
around the unit or the building?
Railing around the edges of the roof to keep anybody from falling off. They do all of the factories in West Tennessee, so they're very familiar. If you drive by Kellogg and you look, you'll see a railing, and we've got pictures, and Leon's been involved, and so they've made recommendations officially.
So it's for people working on the roof falling off?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Antonio, that's what I was gonna ask, City Hall steps and rails, is rails, is that referring to the,
That was just
that's
going-
in addition, okay.
No, yes, going up the
That's
front.
the front, that old.
Okay.
Yeah, but up on the roof is the railing. And he recommends the weighted, which passes OSHA standards. It's much cheaper, and because it's a porous roof, and if you drill, the water will seep in some kind of way. So they're recommending the weighted one, so we don't have a cost yet.
That's where it stands.
But that's not on here, or that is what's up.
No, that's not.
Right, that's a
No, no,
development.
That was
Okay.
what we found out when we were trying to replace the units, that when TOSHA was called, so that's, something we'll have to work on right now.
Yeah, but to figure out where to get it from.
Yeah.
Gotta get it, because we gotta do it.
Mhm.
The units are already on the yard, just
Right, so
waiting
will
to
that
be put
be
up.
something that's after we finish our budget?
It depends on when they get the quotes in to see what they have in
They
their
gave
current
us an
budget.
extension until, Leon, I think it's
May 20-something?
May 20 or something, TOSHA did. So, quote, he promised he would get it to me today or tomorrow. He came out, what, Friday? Friday
And
morning.
so once we get the quotes, we have to see what we have currently in the budget, and if not, then we'll have to figure out, we have to transfer some funds to do that, to get those railings up there.
What did he say, it would take only a couple of days, did he say?
Yeah.
A couple of days to get it done.
We just don't know what it, we have no idea what it costs right now.
I can tell you, the hatch over the city hall, when you come out, say on the hatch, this chair is the ledge. So if a person comes out and just accidentally trips or whatever, they may fall over. It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I didn't go back up.
No.
You're afraid the first
I was afraid the first time.
Those units were original to the building, because they've, no one said anything about it in the last 25 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll figure all that out, but,
Yeah.
everything else, any questions for David on Ned? All right, thank you, David.
Thank you.
And come back up, just got done with the bid opening.
Thank you, man. We'll see you there.
Hopefully it's for the grandstands, isn't it? All right.
We had two bid on it, so I can, of course, discuss it now. We had one that bid at $43,965, and the other one's $114,000.
Which one we gonna go with?
The 114 busted our budget by about 70 grand, so.
All right, fairgrounds, their capital is on page 2, thank you.
So, you wanna discuss, positions?
Yeah,
first?
positions, and then.
So I'm asking for 2 full-time positions, building attendant 2s. I currently have 1 full-time, building attendant two. I have a part-time, full-time guy that works with us. He's a great guy, and I've asked him, let's go, you wanna go full-time? But he's in the National Guard, he's kind of exploring some options, and so, anyway, then I've got another part-time guy, older gentleman, and I'm utilizing one of the PPL guys as part-time. So, we're still working to kind of vet him out. The two positions, the building attendant twos, they start at $16.02 an hour. And I think the salary is right around $33,000 a year. And I think that's before benefits.
All right, then get to your capital, got right now, just open the bid on the grandstand, so upgrading that, and then last kind of publicly facing aesthetic is those, 3-rail fencing goes around the park.
Yes,
And
sir.
That's the grandstand, you're trying to match them with the rest of
yeah,
the.
imagine it's gonna be black and white, like the,
So if y'all
Like the
notice, last year we cleaned up the main building, the exhibit hall, the office area, pavilions, painted that white, went from red to black. So now we're gonna be matching up and there's a lot of rotted wood on that ticket office, grandstand ticket office. So all that's gonna be fresh white, and all that's red on the grandstand will go black. So the full facility will match black and white. And I'm sure some of y'all have seen the inside. That was an older project we did with the black drywall. So that will be complete. And then what I'm asking for capital is the new fences, 3-rail fence. So it's going to tie everything together in full. That fence has been there since the early 90s. So it looks good right now. It's got paint on it, but the posts are rotted.
yeah, it looks good from a distance till you get up on it.
Looks good from a distance, but it's pretty rough.
Any questions for John Robert?
Give us a quick profit loss, rent versus cost.
So, well, it depends on the year. I always kind of go back and say this, there has been some years in the past where I've worked the facility in the black. It just depends on year to year, revenue versus expenses, but I projecting 175,000 for revenue for FY '25. So, we're still waiting on our operating.
All right, any other questions? Thanks, sir.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. Farmer's market. Y'all fully staffed? Well, you got one full and a half, right?
It's just two. How y'all doing this morning?
He's kind of a half-time, full-time though.
And he's off sick today.
Of course he is. And then, so capital, you're looking at security cameras under the first shed.
And I might have to throw some, by us having a whole lot of transits coming through at the farmer's market, there's like the backside, and I got some calls in for, like to kind of fence that in to keep people from messing up back there.
All right. Any questions for Bruce on the farmer's market?
Does that include the amp?
He did not bring any donuts with him today.
Or chocolate milk?
Yeah,
Or
we
chocolate
have
milk.
also.
Yeah, they're also responsible for, daily operations of the AMP as well.
I noticed that at the AMP concert, there were clothes up on the top level of the sponsors area. I think someone had broken in. I don't know if they were living up there or.
I've changed locks.
Mhm.
We continue to change locks. They continue, and I've asked for the police department to come down and kind of patrol that because we do have like I said, with the transits that's coming
Right.
through, and they have a tendency to stick around, so we ask for, someone to patrol there to keep an eye out. Because there's been quite a few to come through. And groundskeeping also help us out when see a whole lot of clothes and stuff coming through.
Any other questions for Bruce? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we get up to South Jackson Community Center.
Jackson.
Come on up here.
It's the best employee in the world.
She's from out south, of course.
Oh, man.
They say her name's Deborah. I don't know.
Good morning.
All right, her capital's on page 5.
Just overhead lights.
Staffing's none, same staffing, fully staffed. In capital right now, looking at changing those overhead lights from those halogen lights to LEDs. Any questions for Pee Wee about South Jackson?
Her name's Deborah. Just messing with her. I never knew that.
I knew for 10 years before I knew it was Deborah.
She does a really good job with that facility. It's full a lot of times with senior adults. They're playing bingo, they're playing pickleball, and it's just a great venue for our community out south. So thank you, Deborah / Pee Wee, for all you do.
All right, any other questions for Pee Wee?
I just have one thing.
Okay.
The community, they are so overwhelmed out south. And, I was talking to Mr. Black, and they were saying it's just, something they need to, you ought to notice that they are growing some in the center, and they would like to expand one day and everything. So I told them that, once we meet and I talk to Mr. Black, I would let you all be aware of that, because the numbers have tripled out, and it's getting full. So I'd like to thank, you all for supporting me and me supporting them to be able to come out and touch their life and touch the things that they're going through their life. Because they say when they come and be a part of Park and Recreation, which is South Jackson, Westwood, TIY, it gives them that energy that they got something to live for. And that makes me proud, and I'm just so happy to be working with Mr. Black in the Park and Recreation, to esteem that in them, to want to come out and do that. So thank you all again.
And they love Pee Wee out of South Jackson.
We just had a pickleball contest. We had 20 teams.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Terry Smith, come on up. T.R. White. And see their capital's on page 6. And part of this capital for page 6 for the hot water tank installation is also to help out for the extreme weather months when we have to open up for emergency shelters. And so if you all remember back January when we had to do this, we had to put most of the days at the Civic Center because we didn't have shower capability at T.R. White. And so by doing this, this will help us open up T.R. White for shelters, emergency use shelters in the winter months. So we don't have to, this past time we had to kind of balance out between events for Civic Center, move them over to T.R. White and things like that. So doing this will help us just lock them in at T.R. White if we need to in those cold weather days and nights.
Got any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
How many employees do you have that man T.R. White, like the front desk, and then what are the operating hours?
The operation hours are from 8 to 5.
Okay.
Monday through Friday.
And then is it just who all, like, whenever, because I work right across the street at Juvenile Court Services, and so I see young people, not teens per se in the day, but I'll see like early 20s, like coming in and out. So do they have a check-in process, or are you?
Yes, we have a sign-in process.
Okay.
And the operations at 8:30 to 10:30, we have special needs.
Okay.
They come in and they use the facilities from 8:30 to 10:30. No one else is allowed to be in to play basketball or do anything.
At that time, okay.
At 10:30, we have open gym where the public can come in.
And
The
that's-
young
And
teenagers.
that's still about 5?
No, that's until 12:30 or 1.
Okay,
And then after school program, they come in at 2:30 when school is out, the kids do.
okay.
Up until 4:30. Then the people that you see coming in later is people that's doing aerobics, line dancing, the older people. And then you have meetings at night.
Okay. I was just curious, like, in the summer, it's great to have the facility open for
Yeah.
teenagers, but there is not a lot of things to do for juveniles, and so that's why I was asking what the operation hours were, because at 5 o'clock, like, if there was somewhere for teens to, like, go play basketball, and so, but,
Yeah, we do. But recently, we've been having a lot of shooting and a lot of different stuff in that area.
I know.
And we are engaged, we are open, but a lot of the teenagers are not coming there to play basketball.
I know, I don't know how to,
Yeah,
like,
you know.
get them,
And we just got a camera system in
okay,
recently,
okay.
you know, for that building.
Speaking to that morning group with the special needs, these are agencies that have houses and homes where they don't have a particular place to take. So we opened it up for them to bring them there, and they play ball, they sit and watch, and they walk to gym. We used to open in nighttime, and we had teen leagues and all of that. Now, the teenagers, we have real difficulty getting our leagues, and Councilman Dodd understands, these kids are a different breed now.
Well, and I
They
see, in the summer, I see a lot of like, like camps and stuff, like
Yeah.
kids are over there in the summer and stuff doing camps and, but I saw that there was something with the pool, refinish and refurbish surface.
Yeah,
When does the pool open and then what are
it's
those
gonna open
hours?
June 3rd,
Okay,
and it goes through July the 26th. We do it when we have our summer camp.
okay,
And so summer camp is from June 3rd to July the 26th.
okay,
And that's when the pool is open, and it's open to the public at 1 o'clock every day,
Okay.
Monday through Saturday.
so July 3rd, August is really hot.
You won't, you
I mean,
won't have
because
that.
I see you guys open, and I'm like, it's so wonderful to see all these kids
What you
like
got is-
enjoying it.
Our lifeguards,
Oh, college probably.
college
Okay.
age kids, and they go back to school first part
It
of
just
August.
sucks because I love seeing it, and then you have the whole month of August where it's hotter than shishi, and you
School
need.
starts early now, so.
Yeah.
Now, what
Okay.
is she?
I don't swear, so that's what that is.
I'm making sure.
That's what that is.
So-
Okay,
It's like a
thank you
spice.
guys.
All right, yeah, that's a good question, though.
Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
You good? Sportsplex.
Save the best for last.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
As far as Sportsplex goes, staff-wise, as I know, RC was up a little bit earlier with groundskeeping, and with the transition with RC going to groundskeeping, you know, the Sportsplex, up until this point, we've had, our grounds has been totally separate from city groundskeeping. But now with RC going over to groundskeeping, our grounds is going to be transferred over to the groundskeeping department. So if you look at that, the, right now, under Sportsplex, there are 6 full-time positions, and as of today, because again, the report can look different day to day with our seasonal part-time, right now we have 116 seasonal positions that we have. Now, out of those, 3 of those full-time are grounds, and as of today, 34 of those seasonal are grounds. So moving into the FY25 budget, you know, we'll have 3 full-time positions at the Sportsplex, myself, our tournament director, Ryan Blake, and our administrator, Shayna Kias. And then right now, we have 76 seasonal, and that's running concessions, gates, setup, all of the that runs our tournaments. So it'll be somewhere around 80 in the seasonal department that we would have moving forward. Capital, the only thing on this year's capital is replacing the surface of the playground over in Complex A. It is sorely needed to be replaced, and that is what is in this year's capital.
One time there was a consideration of putting in a special needs park or field.
I think at some point, we still have the area over there for that. You know, I think, you know, we have on the plan, hopefully in the future, to turf infields. And however that plan comes in, that might be the time because the special needs field would need to be turf as well. So that could be a time to add that to that, maybe to that project, or however that project gets phased into the future. I will share, as I know Councilman Lawrence is going to ask, so come prepared. You know, all of our expenses and revenues are just completely driven by the usage that we have and by the number of teams and the number of people that come out to the Sportsplex. So I just want to, you know, the last 2 years we've kind of had unprecedented growth, and I would like to share just a little bit of where we are right now. So this, right now, as of today, this FY, if you count fall and spring, we are currently setting at 1,259 teams. Last year we finished at 1,516, and then the year before was 935. As of today, we have an additional 600 teams that are registered for tournaments. So if Mother Nature plays nice, we're going to break 1,800 teams this year. So if you look at it over 2 years ago, we're doubling where we were just 2 years ago. And honestly, if you look back at history, I mean, last year was our best year ever, and this year, again, is going to be our best year ever. But again, that drives revenue, drives expenses. When you look at operating budgets, when those sheets all come out, you know, our business, you can't just annualize numbers because we're so seasonal. So I do work with the mayor and with Tony and Bobby on trying to give updated forecast on where I think we're going to end based on the data that we have, and then what the budget will be next year. Last couple of years have been a challenge with when you're growing like we have. It's just kind of up in the air. When I was sitting here last year, had no idea where we were going to finish. I have a good idea where we're going to finish. At some point, we're going to level off, but growth is a great thing when it comes to the number of people that we have coming. Revenue-wise, if you look year over year, these are comparisons to FY22 and FY23. These are through the month of April in each year. So if you look at total revenue, as through this last weekend, our total revenue is $964,000. This time last year, we were at $772,000. 2 years ago, $497,000. Wow. So that's an increase in revenue of 24.9%. You can see number of teams, number of tickets sold, you know, all the data that we have, and a lot of our concessions business, we're becoming more efficient. Our concessions per team is up 19% per team. And our total spend per team is $766 per team, which is up over last year. It's down from a couple years ago, but that's because we've eliminated tournament fees and we're making it up on the back end, and volume cures everything. We're getting the teams here because we're not nickel and diming them.
Are the hotels full?
Well, and that's the other thing is I like to share is I'm anticipating right now, forecasting that our total revenue this year will be around $1.4 million as we end June. So we'll have about $1.4 million in revenue. That's our revenue. That doesn't take into consideration the economic impact that these teams are having on the city. Right. This is a very conservative look at the way that we kind of say that our economic impact is. So if you break down every team that we have, the spend that they're having, hotels, food, sit down, you know, I think a conservative number is around $3,000 per team. on a weekend. So if we hit 1,700 teams, say we rain a weekend out, couple weekends out, I think conservatively, our economic impact is around $5.1 million to the area, and that doesn't even include the 1.4 that we're bringing in. So we're really looking at about $6.5 million impact that we're benefiting from.
You went over real fast, the catalyst to this, and I think yours emphasized that, when you did away with fees for most tournaments, you increased your volume so much.
Yes. So the way travel baseball, especially in this region, it has changed so much. I mean, just in the 5 years that I've been at the Sportsplex, and some of that has to do, we are very, very unique in how we operate and run tournaments. It's run by the city of Jackson. And I mean, we're running basically a retail business through the city of Jackson by doing this. And it's a team effort. I mean, we couldn't do it without municipal maintenance, fixing our HVAC and keeping us running, the garage keeping things running, groundskeeping. Gina up in HR processing 100 and onboarding 100 seasonal employees for me a year. Accounting, keeping my vendors happy by making sure we're paying all of our bills and staying on top of all that. It is truly a team effort by the city to do this. But we have a luxury in that, in the fact that a lot of these tournament directors, not, in the region and out, they're in this, this is a part-time job for them. Tournament fees are going into their pockets, gate money's going into their pockets, so, then they're paying rental to rent the facilities, and it's their business. This is our business, the city of Jackson's business, and our job is to make sure that other people in the city are making money, and that we're trying to do the best that we can to run this thing as even as we can, but anything that is a small gap is an investment into the economic development. So we were able to eliminate those fees and some of the other directors did too, but when they did it, they're taking a hit in their pocket. When we did it, we're increasing the number of teams and the number of people coming into our community. And based on the averages, if we do have the 600 more teams come in, I mean, we're looking at, if you look at the attendance, right, so far we've had 56,000 people. That's paid attendance. That doesn't include the teams. Once you include the teams and coaches, it's more than that. But 56,000 to date, if we finish the year where we're on pace to finish, that number is going to be close to 80,000 people coming through the complex this year. And if you take the teams into consideration, we'll have over 100,000 people come through the complex.
We run from what month to what month?
I mean, that's tournaments running from the 1st of March. We play every weekend except for Easter until the end of June. And then July through the first part of August, we're dark. And then end of August through the end of October. So we have scheduled 26 tournaments. So, about half the year. And, again, July is a little rough. If once Great Wolf goes in across the street and we have a destination like that to host more World Series and regional events, then all of a sudden we'll play more in July. We'll have those events coming in because we'll be awarded those events because we'll have our beach across the street.
And they also allow the recreation programs to practice.
Well, and yeah, everything that I'm referencing here, this is our travel business. That doesn't count. So, starting in May and the entire month of June, 3 days a week, JRPD is going to be playing all their coach pitch and T-ball games out in Complex A. Jackson-Madison County School System softball league plays at our facility. Baseball league plays at our facility. Lane softball home is our facility, and they're showing out in the tournament right now in Georgia, or in Alabama. So, we're happy to host all of those teams. We're happy. We have some practices. We did more. Now we have to scale back on those because of the usage on the weekends. It's the stress on the fields, but we do practice on Mondays and Tuesdays, and we do have teams that are renting our fields for practices.
Jason, with your tournaments, I know this is probably a tough number to come up with, but how many of those teams that are visiting are local or West Tennessee versus coming from
It's
further?
historically, and I break it down, and at the end of every year, I share that with the mayor and with Tony, on, you know, I break it down by, you know, Madison County, but also Medina, you know, this close area.
Sure.
And then an hour away, and then breaking it down by state. And we're at about 70% coming from about 74% coming an hour away or more.
Okay.
So some of them are driving back and forth, some of them are staying, but we are filling up, I mean, we're filling up rooms. There's no doubt about that, at a pace that they haven't seen.
Sure.
You know, and we do have a number of local teams that play with us, but, you know, we don't have the number of local teams in our metro area that, you know, that South Haven, the number of metro teams in South Haven area is phenomenally bigger than what we have. And the other thing is that the local teams that choose to play with us, they're not leaving on the weekend and spending their dollars somewhere else. When they decide to stay and play here, we still have an impact on those teams because they could be going somewhere else. But, you know, and again, I think that $3,000 I kind of shared, that's kind of an average, and that may be on the low end, but I think it's close to being a very, very real
One thing
number.
I know, the local teams, because I've talked with some of the parents, they don't go home and eat.
They do not.
They go to the restaurant.
And I'll tell you the other thing that we changed a few years ago, because before I arrived in 19, I mean, you know, they had the cooler police out there at the gates that there was no outside food or drink allowed to be brought in. You had to check all of this. You had to do it. And all that did was when people are walking in the gates, you just piss them off from the very beginning. And so we have made things so easy on people. And obviously the restaurants, they're there because of us. So if you want to go get something and bring it, great. I'm glad you did. And it hasn't affected us. I mean, our concession sales are up. People are still spending money with us. But if you want to go across the street and get something from Sonic and bring it in, go for it. I want them to make money as well.
Yeah. And, yeah, y'all have done really good these past several years. So, you know, thanks to you and your team for getting out and hustling. What are some things that y'all need that could drive business even further?
Well, I think, you know, we finally got our shade in this last year, which has provided, you know, some relief. And I think in the coming months, we haven't really been operational when it's really needed. So that's, you know, that's some great upgrades that we had. I think next really is trying to at least figure out how to start getting some of the fields turfed on the infields, especially in C and D. And the reason I say that, those fields have 300-foot fences. So if we had turf infields on those 7 fields, we could play any age group on those 7 fields, from 6-year-olds, t-ball, girls and boys coach pitch, all the way up to 15-year-old boy baseball to men's slow pitch on those fields. Right now, like just this past weekend, we were at 77 teams this last weekend. We were completely full in Complex A. We could not take another 9 or 10-year-old team, period, because we were maxed out. But I was using 1 field in Complex C for 13-year-olds and had 2 fields open. But those are 5480 cuts that I can't play anything else on. If those were turfed, I could move the base anchors, put a temporary fence up, and we could have taken a few more teams in those age groups. So, you know, I think that's the next thing. And just, you know, 2 weeks ago, we had 0% chance of rain. At 5:30 in the morning, we got almost an inch of rain, and we lost the Saturday. We played on Sunday, but we lost the day, which probably cost us in revenue. My Saturdays, based on those numbers that I did on Sunday, probably around $30,000 in revenue. My daughter was playing travel softball that same day down in Oxford, Mississippi. Now, the downside of the turf is we played 4.5 hours in cold rain and never stopped in Oxford. We were kind of begging, please, can we please stop? But, you know, it's those things that when people are looking at where to play, and our number 1 competitor right now, South Haven, Oxford, Senatobia, all have turf infields. So, you know, this weekend, right now, weather doesn't look great Saturday, Sunday. So you have teams that are looking at hotel reservations and everything else, and they're having to choose, hey, do I want to play in Jackson, or do I want to guarantee that I can play somewhere else? You know, I mean, obviously it's not hurting us right now. In 3 years, I've lost one total tournament because of the way my grounds guys have got that place. And if we can play, we're going to play. But I may lose a Sunday, I may lose a Saturday, and we may lose some teams just with the thought and the mentality of, hey, it's a natural field. If it rains, we're not going to be able to play.
Well, what is the cost?
So the last budget numbers that I got from Tyler Athletic for to do all 17 fields is right at about $4.1 million. That's all in, that's drainage, that's temporary mounds, that's temp fences, that's everything. But for the whole complex is around 4.1 million, and you can, if you looked at phasing it in, to do the 7 fields in C and D is right at about $2 million, and then to do the 10 fields in A and B, since they're smaller, again, is around the $2 million. So it's about half and half if we did C and D first.
What's the lifetime of the turf?
The turf itself, 10 to 12 years, but the replacement cost is nowhere near the installation cost because the drainage is already done and you're just replacing the turf. Now, on the smaller fields where the younger kids are playing, a lot of that you could probably just replace sliding pits around the bases, the batter's box, and we're going to have temporary mounds, so you're not worried about the wear and tear out in the middle of the field. And what I have gotten quoted is actually the more natural. It's kind of like what the Titans went with, that has the cork and the coconut in it to keep it cooler. That is not the rubber. It's about 7 to 8 degrees cooler by using the more natural filler on it.
You know, which I heard that when you have that dark rubber in there, was it Paul Taylor talking about it could melt the bottom of the cleats, melt the spikes.
It gets hot. And now, I mean, it will, even with the natural, it will be warmer out there. There is no doubt about that, but the, you know, the other part of that is that we're just looking at some point to do the infields, not doing the outfields. That's what everybody else has done, and that does kind of help cut down some of the heat. But I mean, it definitely will be a little bit warmer out there on those with the turf.
Is it an option with all the drainage and all to use natural grass on top of their new drainage system versus turf? A lot of the major league parks are going back to natural turf.
Yeah, but the issue is the multi-use and the wear and tear. And I mean, we have a natural surface now. I mean, just replacing the natural surface and the drainage, we have great drainage out there now.
It's the versatility of it.
It's really the versatility.
Okay.
Because if I just, for instance, Councilman, if I wanted to play younger kids up in C on, you know, the baselines would basically be running through the grass to have, and it just doesn't work. But that's, you know, that's in the future, and whenever the appetite to try to move forward with that is. But I mean, we're doing well. I mean, we're doing well with what we've got, and we're going to play if we can play. I mean, that has helped tremendously, as well as the entry fees. But it's also getting past the mentality that if you spilt the bottle of water, they would cancel in the past. We play if there's any chance of us being able to play.
So would there ever be, with Great Wolf Lodge coming, is there ever a need to add more fields? Can we even do that?
I don't know that we really would have the space to be able to do that. I think, though, at that point is, again, the turfing would allow us to be able to do more with what we've got. I know we have talked to some guys at Lake Point in Atlanta, and what they do in the summertime, because they're not too far from the Great Wolf Lodge out in Georgia, that they have small tournaments during the week in the summertime. So it could be like a Tuesday, Wednesday tournament, and he said it may be 20 teams, but it's people coming in, staying, wanting to play on the weekend, and then staying for a couple days and playing in a small tournament. And you know, if you start, you know, if I have 80 teams on Saturday, Sunday, 20 teams Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, all of a sudden I got 100 teams per week. then that's one way to continue to keep growing these numbers.
Thank you for what you've done.
I appreciate you guys, and again, like I said, it's a complete effort by a lot of people in the city and a lot of people that you wouldn't even think that plays a role in making this happen, and I'm thankful to have Tony to be able to pick the phone up and bounce anything off of that I need to as well.
All right, anything else for Jason? All right,
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Right before we got here, I wanted Christie to talk about, there's a lot of things you see on recreation parks about ADA. And so just kind of let her talk about what they're doing in the parks to ensure our ADA compliance and access. And what's been done already too.
All right, so what we've noticed is that our parks are extremely deficient as it relates to accessibility. For instance, at Melissa's Park, we have an accessible restroom, but we do not have an accessible path to get to that restroom. And so what we started doing last year is putting ADA funds into our budget to allow for us to make those necessary upgrades. That helps us in two fronts. One, we're actually making progress, and two, if someone was to pop up and decide to bring a lawsuit, we have a plan in place to address the ADA issues. So right now what we're doing is I'm having schematics drawn for Conger Park and Melissa's Park. And we will start with Conger July 1, bidding that out. And then Melissa's will be a phased process because it is encompassing the entire walking trail, which is over a mile. And so that won't be something we can do in 1 year, but over the time we'll do that. Centennial is also on there to get their ADA upgrades. So just over the course of the next 5 years, we will start addressing the ADA needs. Forest Hills has no ADA. You cannot access any part of Forest Hills if you are a person who is a wheelchair user or has limited mobility. So those are things that we have to start looking at and start addressing. And then we didn't really touch on Cypress either, but we are applying for a grant for Cypress. That'll come in front of y'all Thursday for a resolution. So to do some work on the boardwalk.
So is it completely shut down now?
No.
Okay.
No, our maintenance department is replacing some of the boardwalk and the rails. But the grant that we're going after will be composite decking. And it will not be enough to cover the entire boardwalk, so it will also be a phased project. But it's a starting point. None of that boardwalk has been replaced since it was built in '84, and so it's 40 years old. But I was just out there yesterday. It's safe to walk on. I walked all the way out to the observation tower. So y'all encourage people to go out there. If you see the post on Facebook that are talking about it, just encourage them to go, that we're working on it.
We have a new young employee from the Union grad. He's great.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's doing tours with schools, and so that's what we want it to be.
Tell you all about the bugs out there.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yesterday while we were walking, any unique bug, he was like, "Oh, that's a da-da-da." And I'm like, "That's great."
He's a good kid.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Isn't that park one of the only parks you can't allow dogs in?
Technically, yes, there's
Why?
not supposed to be dogs because we have raptors that we are permitted by TWRA to have. And they are there because they can't return to the wild. And so it just makes a difficult environment for them to have a dog
Stresses
barking
them.
or, yeah, it stresses them out. So right now we have 11 raptors. We are applying for a USDA license. That's a requirement. And so those are some things that we're knowing now that we didn't know before, that we're getting done. But we
That
have
makes sense.
hawks, we have owls, we have a Mississippi kite. I don't know really what that is, but we have one. They're talking about giving us a vulture, a box turtle. So there's a lot of opportunities that are coming out there at Cypress.
We used to have a bald eagle, and when they shed a feather, we'd have to send it to Denver.
A feather? The bald eagle.
One feather.
It passed away. It lived out its time there, yeah.
I remember that.
Because the only people that can handle them are Governor officials and the native.
Yeah.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
That's it for today. So, Bobby's department's still working on gathering everything, getting it together, and as we get updates, share
There'll
with
be
you
a lot
all.
seeing y'all in 1 week.
See you tomorrow?
Thursday? No, so don't confuse me now. See y'all Thursday for pre-agenda, for the regular council meeting.
Is Marta?
She started physical.